Yo, what is good, my anime people? What is good, yo? So, Cup of Craft this week, guys. Wow. Um, I had a really bad feeling about the FBI, but to think that they stoop this low, my God. Nah, this was kind of obvious. Not as hard to figure out as other things that they kind of introduced in this show. So that was a little bit underwhelming, but at the same time, it makes sense because to have the power or to like have the ability to be in people's emails and like remove the emails only made sense that someone with a ridiculous amount of power was capable of doing this. And by power, I mean influence, and by influence, I mean like government standings and stuff like that. So we get a good look at that and just what it means to have some serious backing. So we see that the FBI are clearly involved with some of these controls of the politics, like of the voting and stuff like that. So it's already being really screwed up and disgruntled in the case of like everybody is just doing what they want at this point. Like the humans who have been there's humans that have been trying to continuously have Earth be just for Earthlings and humans and stuff like that. But then there's people on the other side who are smart enough to be like, you know what? I'm just gonna find out what these guys can do, and I'm gonna take everything they got. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna learn everything they got, and then align myself with them so I can be in a better position. Compared to the Earth people who have no idea this stuff even exists, right? Like it's still hard for a cop who has literally been told multiple upon multiple times what's going on, and he's still just like, I don't believe it. Like he's seen it, he knows that people are dead and straight up fighting people and all this different stuff, but it's still hard for him to swallow. It's still a like, what the heck? I actually believe this crap. Like that's the type of thing that's going on here that kind of makes me laugh still, like to think about. It's like, really, bro? Like, does she really need to explain to everybody again how ridiculously different their world is compared to ours? Like, she literally shows him, the chief anyway, and all the cops in there, that she can change her clothes just by chanting a couple of words, right? And that was even just like, whatever, like, that's cool. I could do that too, type of deal. Or I've seen magic before in a circus act, something stupid. But now that we've gotten a good explanation as to why the FBI is so like close on the trail of these two, at least to be for certain, is yeah, they running with the big guns, and it looks like this show might have an abrupt ending. Sure, it's like it's been kind of built up hard. I do not know what this boss fight is going to be like, so if I die, this is on hard and I didn't know what the heck to expect. But we really don't have any outside sources anymore than the cops and the people we know to save them in this situation. So it's already a mess, guys. Ew. It's already a mess. And because of that, I definitely am looking forward to seeing, like, does this mean more of these different types of battles will ever like take place, or is this just like a one-off show now where when this happens, this is just going to be the end of it, right? Like we're going to be done with everything in the grand scheme of these characters kind of not knowing um, what what's been going, like, not the characters but the overall people in the town don't know exactly like what's going on and what's actually transpiring. But when they start to learn, what does that then do for, the town? What does that start to do for people who have been believing everything that they hear, that, this assassination attempt never would have done that, and it had to have been one of these aliens, like a lot of the alien quote unquote people have been taking a lot of the flack for everything lately. So that's what I mean. Like, what is that going to do with the humans? And to think that a lot of these like people that are doing all this right now are probably dead, right? Like, they're all probably a part of the politicians' scheming of making these people look ridiculous. Like, oh well, look at what they're doing to our country, and look what they're doing to our our property and all this stuff. They clearly don't care, and it just makes sense to me that it would be that all these people that are having this going on. What the heck? Why are you guys so accurate? Chill out. This boss battle is actually annoying. I probably should have tried it on easy, but oh, there's range to it. Got it. But yeah, overall, this show has been doing relatively well for me. I like the crap out of Copcraft, but it just feels like there's not much more for me to speculate anymore. If this is kind of where they're kind of ending it off, because think about it. This guy who has been escaping, who actually showed up when the most like powerful thing showed up in the show, which was the vampire. Come on. Oh, that was the last one, right? Come on, heal, heal, heal. With the vampire being the last thing that like pops up and really showed us just how crazy the outside world is and what can just happen, that's when we kind of just transitioned back to the cops having their cop life, right? And what? You saw it. It stopped. Oh my god, this boss fight is actually trash. It went from being pretty straightforward to not knowing exactly what the heck is going on. And I thought that was a good way of transitioning the show from being about one guy to just being about, multiple problems. Like everything about the aliens and everything they're kind of dealing with being the real ideal problem that they're trying to figure out. So now that we're here and we have like them in our sights of like, okay, this is the problem and this is why stuff is happening the way it's happening. That was straightforward. But then next thing you know, we're getting all of these other problems and all these other people who are, showing us that even though they want to live normal lives like everybody else, it doesn't matter, because the humans that have control, the humans that have all the power to pretty much make the calls, are going to, be against it every single time. So now that we have that into perspective, it interests me that nobody outside of the cops are really giving out information besides this one journalist, right? Like, if you're a journalist, they should all be doing relatively the same thing. They should all be grinding for this information that is pivotal, right? Like, this is huge information of people, switching on a whole entire race and trying to duck the blame pretty much onto them. Like, that's a huge story just to talk about in itself. So to see only like one journalist having like dirt on this was also a pretty tall tale sign for me that clearly there's someone really strong at work here and capable of, controlling situations the ways that they want situations controlled. And that's a really cool thing for this show to kind of introduce without really saying anything. Like, you had to understand it. Like, there's somebody who could get to this cop, and this cop being, someone who really doesn't even he didn't really trust anybody besides himself and his partner. Um, and even his partner, you know, kind of like paid the price for being in the situation that they were in. But nonetheless, they still were on the right trail. Like, they weren't doing anything supposedly corrupt as everybody else seems to be when it comes down to politicians and stuff like that. And now even the FBI is corrupted by this. So I'm really interested in this show as a whole and what they're going to give us. I mean, we now know what is possible at the end of the day. Like, we know who is probably at fault and who um, is helping the FBI become so strong and be able to handle certain assassination attempts on, you know, these big name people and get away with it. Not to mention the Marine that did the attack, the person that actually does all this and kind of gets away with it, is the same person who he was gone for supposedly like 6 years, right? He leaves for 6 years, and then once he pops back up, he has the camera that can turn into a gun and the film that turns into bullets, you know? So it's pretty clear that he went and trained all that time and became ridiculously even more broken than he already was as a Marine. And, you know, learned some sword fighting, learned some, you know, counters to how to fight with against swords and with swords. So I don't know. I like a lot of where this is all going. So to know that Copcraft is coming probably close to an abrupt end, like they're actually gonna end the series end. Maybe anyway. I don't know if they're just gonna be like, well, we solved that mystery case and took out a guy from my past. Now it's time to take care of other crimes. You know, like, I don't know if it's gonna go that route, or if there's gonna be like, wow, we finally took out that guy, and I can finally say you're not my partner anymore. And then she leaves, and he waves goodbye, and that's it. You know, like, with anime, anything is really possible, and that's why it's sketchy to me, to just be like, yeah, this is gonna happen, and it's gonna be over, or this isn't gonna happen, and the season 2 is gonna come. Because, to be fair, anything could really happen at this point. And sure, some people are gonna be like, oh no, only one or two things are gonna happen, and that's probably people who have read up on it or have seen if there's more source material out there to be doing more content, or vice versa, not enough source material. So we'll see what happens there. I hope you guys have an amazing day, night, evening, whatever the case may be. I am your boy, the Anime G, and I will definitely talk to you in the next one. So with that, peace.